Hi, this is Nick with Jacob's Vocal Academy, back for another lesson. Today's topic is pretty interesting. You see a lot of people, and you may yourself be one of them, that say things like, I don't like my voice sounds weird, I wish I sounded like blank. And this is something that a lot of singers struggle with, especially newer singers, people that have not heard themselves maybe recorded as often, or who just haven't gotten used to their own instrument yet. So first off, I would like to look at this from a more technical standpoint. You, as a singer, have your unique larynx, your instrument, and it can be used in a multitude of ways that are still uniquely your own. In using your larynx, one or many of these various ways, you're gonna make your sound as a vocalist, as an actor, as whatever it may be you're using your voice for, you're gonna develop your sound through a particular use of your larynx. So that being said, the first place you might consider altering your voice is in your larynx. Let me advise that this is not the first place I would recommend to change one's voice, and that if you're going to choose to change your voice, change the sound production from the larynx itself, it should be done so with some amount of care and some amount of caution. So you, as a singer, right now might have a very open, free voice with all sorts of resonant sounds in it, and all sorts of good stuff like that, but maybe you don't like that so much. Maybe you have heard yourself in recordings, or even just the way you hear yourself straight out of your mouth might be dissatisfying to you, even though you're singing in a very free, healthful way. There may be other singers listening that have a much more tight, pinched approach to the larynx that creates a unique sound that some people have come to like, but that they themselves may not be so fond of, or maybe they just can't keep using their larynx in this unhealthy way.
Or you might be a singer like Louis Armstrong, making use of your second set of vocal folds.
Bad impressions of Louis Armstrong aside, it can be noted here that all of these techniques of manipulating the larynx, of pinching and squeezing and poking and prodding in all sorts of different ways will in fact make different sounds, but I would advise that you go for the most relaxed, most natural sound you can, and instead modify it in some of these other ways. To begin with, you might try an accent, just a very thin accent, and see what it does to your voice. See what it does to the overtones in your voice, especially if you're recording. It will change a lot of the sounds you're making. You might find that you like them more or less. And then perhaps in lieu of an actual accent, you can try just placing the sounds deliberately into different parts of the mouth.
For example, if you place them kind of in the back of the mouth and keep it nice and relaxed, your whole mouth wide open the whole time, you kind of take out a lot of the higher resonance.
And then on the total opposite end of it, if you send it towards the front of your mouth, there's nothing but high nasally resonance left.
So just for a quick example, I'm going to sing the same note on the same vowel in a few different ways and show you how just the shape of my mouth and the general production of the vowel can really alter the sound dramatically. I could start it out nice and dark and go, ah. Then I can brighten it up a little bit with basically the same vowel and go, ah. Or I could bring it really far forward, ah. All basically the same laryngeal production, but the shape of my mouth and where the sound is being sent and how it's being developed by the shape of my mouth changes it dramatically. Using these ideas, start from the most relaxed, natural feeling place you can get your voice. And from there, if you're not satisfied with it, go ahead and try to apply some of those ideas. Apply some vowel manipulations, some difference in where you're sending the sound, some difference in that sort of sound production before you worry too much about changing the laryngeal production, as that could become very quickly damaging, especially if you're not under regular professional guidance. So that's about as much as I want to say as far as actually changing the voice, as far as manipulating and developing the sound of your voice. I don't want to send anyone astray and have you doing anything that you shouldn't be, and really I think you are your own best guidepost on that. If you do something and think, oh man, that hurt my throat, don't do it again. Just don't ever do it again. It can't be healthy, and if you like the sound or not, you shouldn't be doing it if it isn't healthy. But if you do something and make this awesome, crazy noise that you're just head over heels about, and your throat feels fine, and you feel like you could do it 100 times, you may have found something. But now I want to touch on the more sensitive side of this whole thing. about not liking one's voice and about wanting to manipulate one's voice. Our voices are organic. They are given to us genetically, they're developed societally, and eventually they become ours. Each one of us has the voice that we know that comes out of our own head, the way it sounds in our own mouth, behind our own ears. And it's very much a part of ourselves, and especially for singers and performers, we find our voice to be part of our identity. And that can make it really difficult if you don't like the sound of your voice. That could mean for you that you don't like part of who you think you are as a person, whether or not it has anything to do with your character. If you place value in the sound of your voice and aren't happy with it, then you're not going to be happy with part of yourself. And so before you go changing your voice or trying to find a new way to sound, I would encourage you to start off with just some self-love. I think that's one of the key things for any singer and really any performer, is just to love yourself. So I guess my other big piece of advice is just to love yourself. That can really be a big thing for a lot of singers and just a lot of performers in general. It's difficult to love yourself sometimes, but you'll find that if you do, there are several benefits that come with it. I think the first and foremost has to be just the sense of self-worth, the sense of satisfaction. When you love yourself, you're free to sing as yourself. You don't feel the pressure to manipulate the voice or to manipulate the performance in any way. When you love yourself, you know right from the start that your performance is going to be genuine and it's going to be honest. But self-love also goes a long way in a lot of other performance areas. For example, you're going to be less nervous if you go in knowing that you're going to kill the performance or the audition. You're going to have a more natural, flowing tone. You're going to give a performance that's much more honest, not only to the performance itself, but to who you are as a person and who you bring to the table. So before you go changing your voice, I think the first thing to do is to practice some self-love, to sing more often, to sing more loudly, and to just learn what your instrument is and learn to love it as part of you. And if you ever find yourself thinking, oh, I really love the way blank sounds, or I really wish I sounded more like this or that person, I have two things to say about that. One, if you're hearing them on a recording, particularly a studio recording that's been processed and mixed and nitpicked to death, what you're hearing isn't really what they sound like. Even fine singers are manipulated very heavily through the use of studio technology. And also, why would you need to sound like them? We already have their voice in the world. Now we need yours.